Hello. Oh, there you are. I was afraid for a moment that you had forgotten our appointment.
To your safety belt.
Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready?
This is the Beyond the Veil Supernatural Podcast with Lisa Morrison and Richard Moschella.
Welcome, everybody. Oh, this is so exciting.
This is number one, the first podcast.
I know. Hopefully one
are we
of
on
many.
Right now? We got 4 seconds.
We are on, dude.
We are live, Roland.
I'm live. Oh, hello.
We are live.
Hey there. Wait. Hey, let me do the lean. Hey there.
There you go.
Oh boy. So whoever's watching, you're definitely in for a treat.
How do we know who's
watching? Got the Three Stooges here.
Well, a long time coming. I mean, we've been talking about doing this podcast for months, and you know what? Everything just kind of lined up for us, and here we are with our amazing first guest, Roland BuddhaHawk. We're honored to have you.
What an honor to be here. OMG. I think I am serious, but we were having fun before, so I'm in a silly place, so we're just gonna roll with that.
It's good to laugh. I mean, when we talk about laughter, I mean that's energy too, right? It's very good to raise the vibration, raise the vibes.
Yes, totally. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. Real quick, since this is our first podcast ever, I feel like we should, Rich and I should each do an introduction for those that don't know who we are. So I am Lisa Morrison. Who am I?
Who is you?
That's a deep question. Who are you?
Let me get my glasses on and I'll just rub my chin. Who are you really? Here we go. Lisa, why don't you start? Who are you really?
Oh, wait, who's running the show here?
I don't know.
Oh, the Cocos are here. Todd, Carm, how are you?
Hi, thanks for tuning in. So I'm Lisa Morrison. I am an evidential medium, psychic, past life regressionist, Reiki master, with a following. I'm internationally known really more for my mediumship and intuitive abilities, but I do kind of a wide variety of things and also paranormal investigating. So welcome. So Rich, your turn.
I am a psychic medium who specializes in spirit art. I sketch the essence of the communicator that comes through. I'm also an author. I have about a dozen books out from my publisher. I'm also a paranormal investigator for a few decades now. So we're just bringing our love of the metaphysics, the supernatural, and bringing it to the forefront in this podcast where we can share information, perspectives, and also our research with you and our friends. So that's what this is about. So we thank you for finding us. Ron, Terry, they're all coming in. So welcome.
People writing stuff.
And
hi, Ron.
We're so excited to profile our first guest, Roland BuddhaHawk.
Wait, hold on 1 second. Hold on.
He's leaving. he just left.
This shows.
Roland has left the building. You like Elvis.
Yes, we are feeling better. Todd, my family and I are just getting over the flu. So this is my first day having voice and not coughing up a lung. So
I got Marianne saying hi to all of us. That's nice.
Marianne.
Hello. Okay, I'm going to get lost in the comments because I think they're like the coolest part. That's when people get crazy. Lisa, real quick, past life regressionist. So let me just ask you because most people know what physical mediumship is. What?
Yeah, good. No, I said you're flipping the script. All right, go.
I totally am. Yeah, people know what Reiki is. People know most of the other things you label. Now, when it comes to past life regression, people aren't always sure. So I want to help to clarify that. Are you putting them under, or are you just getting the information and expressing?
So regression would be you being regressed through hypnotherapy.
But you didn't say regression. That's why you only said
regression.
Okay. I blanked out on that.
But I do, which I don't talk about a lot. I do Akashic Records readings, which I had done one on you. Which was more of where I tapped into the blueprint of your soul and was able to, obtain information from prior lifetimes that your soul lived.
So, but essentially, if you wanted to put another label on it, it's essentially a past life reading that, even though you're calling it's Akashic, yes, but I'm just saying it's a different version of. I think it's awesome that, there's so many other things that we offer as, practitioners and such that we get lost in the sauce and some of the things and how we have to present it because so many people are used to certain things. And so I thought it was important. And I did confuse your Akashic record in my mind because to me, it was more a past life thing versus an Akashic. I went in the way of past life.
It's all under the same thing, where the regression would be being regressed, being put under where you could, where I walk somebody through being able to recall subconscious memories from when they were in another lifetime.
Okay. I dig it. Can I ask any more questions about that? One more?
Sure. One more.
Now so it's hypnotism. So you're regressing somebody. So we don't need that snarkiness. Thank you.
Only because I love you. That's why I give it to you. All right.
I know you do. I love you. But is it through Diane Cannon? Is it, Brian Weiss?
Oh, yeah. So I studied with Brian Weiss. In Rhinebeck.
Awesome.
Yeah. In Rhinebeck, I took the 5-day intensive training with him and his wife, Carol, at the Omega Institute.
Many lives, many masters. That first
book. He autographed my book for me. I have pictures of him autographing my book.
Oh,
I have it in my office. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's great that you have that picture there. Anyway.
I sense it's a sore subject.
You haven't been in my office recently. Anyway.
Is it there?
No, not yet.
Oh, Roland.
Yes, sir.
Well, Roland. I want to ask you.
Jesus will be on the wall. Nobody has any idea what we're talking about.
What I want to ask you is, how did your journey start in healing? How did you become a healer?
How did Roland become?
Roland?
I say that
what
to you
put
because
you on this journey. I mean, there's all things that have happened in our lives that kind of put us on the journey that we're on. So what's your story?
And I love this because honestly, you don't really know any of my stuff. So this is really cool. So essentially, it was me quitting a job and breaking up with a fiance in 2004 in the same week. And I was kind of like lost and I was just like, what do I do? And then, as things align with the universe and synchronicity, my buddy had bought a car that he was going to ship to LA for his dad. He goes, why don't you drive it and clear your head? And that started a whole process. But prior to all of that, if we go all the way back to 8 years old, anything before 8 years old, I was able to see spirit clearly, hear them, work with them. All of this stuff was very normal and natural, but I didn't remember because at 8 years old, I just wanted to be a regular kid. And I'll get into that whole crazy story in a minute, but and I just didn't want to hear anything. And I just tried really hard to be accepted by so many different groups of people. I wanted so much to be seen. I was thinking just the other day, like the crazy things that I would try to do in school so that I can, so people can be, hey, I'm here. But a lot of times kids sometimes in school could be a little harsh, but high school was an interesting time for me because I was always getting lost in thought. I was a deep thinker, so I was a little quiet, but at the same time, I always wanted to be seen. But let me go back to this 2004 situation. So I'm closed off at that point. Like, I felt any idea of a connection was just gone. And I get in this car and I'm driving, and then I was leaving Memphis. I just passed Graceland, woohoo! And then I started seeing a neon sign in my head that said Arizona. And then that neon sign that's blinking in my head, and I was just like, what is going on here? And then that became Sedona. And it was really like big and loud in my head. And I didn't understand what was happening because I just forgot about all that stuff. So I was really confused. So I called another friend of mine. I asked her to find me a guide. I want to check out these vortexes, and, you know, I'll change my whole trajectory of how I'm going, because I was going in a completely different direction. So she found a guide for me. I called her, I scheduled, I stayed in Flagstaff, which was a really cool town, lots of fun, really nice people. But leaving Flagstaff to go to Sedona is about an hour. And I drove down this real scenic route called 89A, and it's windy. You can only go 15, 20 miles an hour. It's like this. So I'm driving this brand new Cadillac down there, and I'm getting lost in this landscape, and I'm getting this overwhelming feeling of like, I want to cry. And I'm like, what's going on? And then like, I'm getting lost again, and I'm almost driving off this road, and you're going straight down. I'm like, oh. So then I get to the bottom. That happened 4 times each. And then I got to the bottom, and then there's a river right next to it. So I'm driving along, and I'm out of the peripheral. I could see like horses start to rise made of water, and they are galloping on the river. Now I'm talking out loud in this car. Like, I know that if I turn my head, these horses aren't here. So I'm not crazy. So I turn my head, they're gone. I'm like, yeah, I'm losing my mind. And then I'm driving, and there they are again. I'm like, this is nuts. So now I go and see this woman, and she she brings me up to her office. So what would you like to do today? And me being the wise ass that I am, and I would never say this again to either a reader or a healer, you know, what would you like? And I said, well, you're the psychic, figure it out. Never again. Never again. Yeah, so she gave me this. She gave me the side eye, you know. Mm-hmm. She totally did. Like, she's like, all right, you little bastard. So, but she took me to this place called oh my god, it just fell out of my mind. It just fell out. Oh, Bell Rock Canyon.
Bell Rock,
yeah. So, and I remember her telling me some things before we walked. We took a 20-minute hike, and then we sat. And I was just like, and before we sat, I was being very skeptical about everything. And I remember she's just like, bend your knees and close your eyes and just see what happens. I'm like looking at her, are you crazy? All right, I did it. You know, so I did. And all of a sudden I start to like kind of go backwards. She goes, now take a step to the right, do that again. And now I'm doing this again. And now this time I'm going left. And I'm like, what's going on? And she starts to laugh because she goes, this is where all, 5 points of the energy lines are crossing here in this spot. And we weren't, so Bell Rock, so like the way that when you're walking up to it, you can go towards Bell Rock, but we went to the left. And so we weren't at Bell Rock. We were off into the canyon of it.
Yeah.
We did some breathing exercises to help with the now ex-fiance. And then we did some breathing exercises to help just kind of like expand the energy. But then this whole craziness started to happen. Like when we were walking up, it looked to me like on the side of the canyon somewhere that there was like this face painted. And she goes, no, that's natural formation because of the tree. It marked this thing. I'm like, it looks like a face, but there's a tree dead right in front of it. Anyway, she's like, oh, that's a portal, but that hasn't been used in years. I'm like, all right. So we're doing this expansion thing. And she's like, oh, you're around Arizona. And all I know is that I felt my spirit like go into that portal and shoot out into the middle of the sun. And I just kept going. And as I was going, I started getting all these visuals and all these memories and all this stuff. And I just felt my body like I was paying attention that I'm getting all this info, but I could feel my body like vibrating and shaking and all this stuff. So lots of downloads. And then she's like, all right, open your eyes. And I'm looking at the canyon, and I could see all the energy and all the colors. And I'm like, what? It just happened to me. Like, whoa.
Amazing.
But in all that process, I remembered things from my past. I remembered my cat Mittens that came home. I was about 3 or 4 years old, and she was all scratched up and bloody. And I remember I gently picked her up, and I'm like, I love you. You're going to be okay. But I also remembered, and this is the probably biggest thing, about the big ball of light. So ever since I was small, I always have seen this ball of light. It's always been there. And now that I think back, I recognize that it's always been there. I just chose not to see it or pay attention to it. So, and so now, I'm paying attention that I'm asking, as a young kid, asking the ball of light to help me to help Mittens. And the ball of light would move over me and the energy would flow through, or that love would flow through, right? So now when I do it, I still have that visual of me as a 4-year-old boy. It's not a visual like I am 4 years old, meaning I am that innocence. I am that pure love. I can't fake it to make it. Like, I have to be that. And that's, I see the ball of light, and the ball of light moves over me and the energy flows. And I just, throughout my years, and so this is 2004, and then 2005, 2006, I went out again, and I planned all this stuff to do, and nothing worked. All my plans, everything, my itinerary just got pissed away. But all this other magic stuff happened, and everything happened so synchronistic. And one of the things was people were doing Reiki. I'm like, wait, that's like, I could do that. And then I had another memory, that I remember I crawled up to a family friend who was like an uncle. And I remember I pulled myself up on the couch and I put my hands on his knee. And I remember I looked at him like, and then I pulled myself down the couch and I crawled away. And he got up and he said to my mom, he's like, what's up with your kid? And he's kicking out his leg. He's like, my pain's gone in my knee. So these memories were kicking around in my head. And I started to say to myself, what happens if I try to do this over here? So now I start experimenting. Right. So up until 2015 is when I came out as a healer. But up until that time, I mean, I was trying just to see what would happen if I tried over here with this one. Like, oh, you got pain? Let me see if this works. Let me see if I could help you with this. It was always
those experiences, though, also go back to childhood. A lot, like with mediums and intuitives, we have that knowing at an early age that we're able to do this. So you have that at that early age with, your kitten, and knowing that light is there. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, I had a group today, and I just remember for that moment, as I'm feeling this ball of light move over me and all that, it's just this warm, like, hug. And I was just, while I'm doing the group healings and stuff, like, I become like, I just want to jump around and laugh. And I'm like, oh, if I have to be conscious, because sometimes I just want to be like, this feels so good.
Right.
And so it's going to happen one day, but I try to be very conscious about it. But it's an amazing feeling. It's just so, and so from 2015 on, like, I thought I was the cat's meow in 2015. Like, I came out of the gate saying, like, yeah, I'm going to be the best. And and the interesting thing, and this is in my first Holistic Expo in Staten Island, December 2015. And I remember I worked on 22 people that day, but there were about 8 to 10 women that I worked on that I saw a visual, and I'm extremely visual when I do this, but I saw a visual of a dove. And I was like, this is weird. And then, like, I'd work on a few people, and then I'd see another dove. And then, like, at the end, there was one woman, I worked on her. I'm like, what's up with the dove? And then she told me who she was, and that she does these, spiritual classes in Staten Island. I was like, I'll go. Let's, I'll do a thing. So I did, like, a presentation on energy, and I was just trying to show, and they were doing stuff like expand your energy on a wall. It was an awesome class, but in that class, I realized how much I didn't know. And then I chose to take that class. And that really humbled me a lot. I'm grateful for that. I mean, I did learn stuff, but some of the stuff didn't take as far as the mediumship part, like the steps to do things. I'm like, yeah, that's not working for me. So I'm just going to stay over here and heal. And things progressed. And, I had another friend that she was teaching mediumship classes, and she said, you need to do a workshop. I'm like, no. And I did it for a while. I mean, but my God, I was a nervous wreck, as anybody would be. But it's always been like, and I took Reiki in that time. I took IET, and, I dove into all these different other modalities, and I just go not by choice, because if I could blend I'll tell you one quick story with the Reiki thing. So in the Reiki, when I took Reiki, they had us do a visualization. The guy was like, just have a white light come down through your head, come down through your heart, and then let's let it go out through your hands. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to do that. So, after he did some stuff, we're ready to work on each other. So here I am. I have the visualization. It's coming down. It's down to my heart. And here I go. And it's not moving from my heart. I'm like, come on, go. And nothing's happening. I'm literally going like, it's not working. But now I'm paying attention. As I'm paying attention up, there's this real thick, like it almost looks like a snake, but it's that thick of fire coming around, wrapping around the light. So as it's coming down slowly, it comes down to my heart, and it's like this crazy explosion of like, and then it shot down into the ground. It came back up, and then I'm like, whoa, like it wasn't like jet fuel. I almost got pushed back. And a couple seconds after I'm like working on the chick, she sat up, moved my hand out of the way. She goes, I want to tell you, you're burning my face off. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sure. She goes, no, it feels good. Keep going. And then she laid back down. So it was a lot of interesting. The visualizations were always an interesting thing, but I always stay back and just like default in the things that I see and how I operate, because to me, it's simple. It's simplicity. And I feel sometimes a lot of these modalities, whether it be to make a dollar or because they think that they're doing the right thing, I feel that they overcomplicated something that should be truly simple. And I call what I do purification healing, only because I was a woman, and I don't want to get into the whole. Every time that I had to say the modality, like I had to say the entire modality, it's a mouthful. And then when I sat with her to talk to her about it, she's explaining everything, and she's doing an amazing job explaining it. But I had X's in my eyes. I was just like, this is just so in my soul. I was like, it shouldn't be such a long way around the mountain when you can go straight up it to get to where you need to be. And so, I just kept on exploring. I always kept on just like, let's see what else we can do. And are there limits? No. Let's see where they are or where they're not. And and let me learn things from other people. Like I'll be a sponge for information, and I'll see what works with me, and I'll take that. So I can breathe.
I think we have some questions too.
The question from Todd is great, Lisa. If you want to read that,
we can. Hold on. Here you go. Roland, as a healer, are you using different parts of nature's energy during sessions to heal individual, and does it physically cause an energy drain to you?
Oh, good question. I love it, actually. Sometimes in the middle of a session, I will see, sometimes like I'll see, it's really cool. I'll actually see like a waterfall. I always see fire towards the end of a session because it's different colors, but I'll watch. It's like I'll say in my mind fire, and then this fire will come cascading over me into the person, and I just watch it change colors and move up them, and it'll just burn off things like that I may have missed, or just like, you know, they were already ready to go, and I'll watch these little ambers kind of fly away. So that when I came to the, you know, people are like, you have to have a name to what you do. So that's why I call it purification healing, because I'm watching that aspect of fire. But I do see other elements. You know, I see how water moves. Water's big with emotions. So if somebody's stuck with emotions, I will see either water or an animal that lives in the water, typically jellyfish, because that's about flow. So elements come in, like there's so much that happens. It's not one or the other. It's like whatever happens, happens. But a lot of times, you know, there's always that simplistic thing. Again, when you're in a place of that simplicity, everything kind of just flows different.
Right.
And so, you know, there are aspects of nature that come. Animals are a big thing. You know, elements, elementals, you know, we can go on the list of beings and this and that, but I have a crazy visual experience. But all of my experience that I'm having doesn't mean that you're going to have the same experience. You could be lying in my chair and you take a nap, you know, and it doesn't mean that you're having this profound thing, but maybe that profound thing could be something so subtle that's just nudged just a little bit that makes a huge impact in your life. It doesn't have to be that somebody's trembling and, you know, moving all over on a table or on the floor. You know what I mean? Like they don't have to jump around like a jelly bean. They you know, that's, I love the idea of subtlety. You know, sometimes that subtleness, but what I'm experiencing and what you're experiencing are two different things, or maybe the same thing. So I don't try to limit it. I don't try to judge it. It's just, it is. So I definitely am not trying to drive the healing bus, you know. I'm just paying attention to where it flows, and I'm just trying to help it out. You know? Right. So that was a good question. Thank you, Todd. I hope I answered that properly. And no, there's no energy drain. I can literally do this all day. The most I've worked on a day is 9 people for an hour each. And I went out, had dinner, hung out, because I was just tired, just because I'd be tired, and you know, you're tired in 9 hours, and I was pretty much sitting. I wasn't doing a lot of stuff, and I was just listening to the same song for 9 hours. But the energy isn't part of me like that, isn't flowing to you. It's literally just flowing through me. So there isn't that drain that some people do experience, because what happens is people are connecting too much, and they have that association. They feel it, so they give part of themselves. So since it's not, I know it's not for me, it just flows on through. It's like, here you go. So I get a little bit of it too.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because I know, like, you know, with Reiki, for me, you know, and I was always taught, because you're a vessel and you're being attuned, right? That you are like the channel for the energy, but you're not using or expending your own energy to help create the balance or shift energy blocks and things like that. Now, Pat, who you know, long ago, from what I understood, somebody like her, being a natural born, you know, she uses the term spiritual healing, but being a natural born healer, in a sense, where she never had any type of an attunement to be able to channel the energy, just seems to happen in it, and she touches people in it, and it shifts things, and it helps them, you know, grow and evolve or heal them. You know, obviously I want to use that term lightly, you know, because obviously medical.
We get
it.
Number one.
I know.
You're okay. You okay?
I know, but I have to say that. So, with that being said, you know, from what I understand, people like that they do use their own energy, it does drain them. So I find it interesting, because it looks like yours is part natural, the way you described your whole journey, right? And then yeah, like you said, you were giving you did take Reiki and stuff like that, and you were attuned to that. So I find that fascinating personally. You know, that you don't get tired, because even like us as mediums, how exhausting that is.
It's a muscle. It's a muscle, though. Right. It is a muscle, even if it's not one that you would think that it's in your body. You know, both ways, whether mediumship or what I'm doing, you're still allowing energy to flow. And the more that you flex your muscle, the more that you can do. It's like you can do more, right? So just think about, look, you could do an hour of gallery and go and have dinner, no problem.
Right.
And I'm not saying that you're not going to be a little tired. You're so used to it. It's like, it's like if you had to go to work for 8 hours, your 1 hour, you're so used to it because it's your job, but you're so used to it that you can go on afterwards. Versus I've seen other people where they read 4 people, like, I have to stop.
Yeah.
Spirit's telling me to stop. I'm drained. I can't do anymore. And they're done.
And
like they're
most of the
lucky
times, I even know for myself, though, after you do a big reading like that, when you finish and you come off stage, you're still riding a high. Like it takes me about an hour to 2 hours sometimes after a reading just to kind of come down from what happened. Because you feel that, you still feel that energy. And
you're on the high.
Yeah, you're like riding that high from spirit because that connection is like still very much present. And you feel that.
Right.
Like, it's interesting. A lot of times now, when I do these big events, like I'll do a big event in Edison in March, and I'm by myself now. I used to have somebody come with me. They would write the names, talk to people. But honestly, it's just like, who wants to sit there all day? Yeah. You know what I mean? So I felt bad, and I was grateful that they helped me. But I'm like, all right, I'll do this myself. And so now it's like I'll be nonstop. It's like literally one person gets up, another one sits. I'm in that zone with that person. Next.
Well, this is a great.
And I will still talk to people that are having questions while I'm multitasking.
This is a great little point, though, to drop in that you're going to be at the Heart of Oneness Expo in Edison in March.
Yes, I am.
Okay. So
if
you're looking to have a session with, Roland, you're going to be there. So
I am. And I'm also going to do a group healing on Saturday at noon. So that's some craziness. That'll be super fun. I can't wait. I did it last year, and it was in the way of healing it. Like, yes, everyone got their own healing, but I just, at the time, whatever that was, it was going towards something specific, which at this point, I don't remember. So it was very cool. It was very neat. How are we doing over here with comments? Did I miss anything?
No, you're good so far. So, I'm curious that I think we would be a great conversation right now. So we're talking about shifting energy, right? Like having somebody in your chair and all that. What about objects? What about spaces, homes, places of business? Because you do all that too.
I do. Thank you.
And do you find it to be along the same lines as when you're working on a person, or do you feel like it's a completely different?
The beginning process is the same, like how I'm starting, but visuals, like, all right, for a home, like, all right, let me not start with the space. Let's start with an object. Like one of the things I used to do was I would infuse crystals with the energy of the session, and I would give them to the person. That was a cool thing to do. Actually, I should buy more. Thank you. But so just holding it and having the intention for me would literally shift the energy in whatever those crystals were. And that it could be crystals, it could be, your flashlight, it could be whatever you want to call it. Anything can be infused with energy. And, providing that, your intention's pure, I feel it's going to merge with the item to do what you just tried to program to do for it. So I still have that whole visual when that happens, and I can literally feel like molecules and atoms start to merge with the intention. It's really wild. When it comes to a space or somebody's home, that's a really interesting visual because like I have to take a lap around and kind of see all the rooms and everything. But what happens is I'll either be in the basement with the lights off with headphones on, just listening to music, or on the problem area. And we bring down this crazy column of light, and it goes down about 400 feet. It spreads out, and on the perimeter, in the corners, columns of light go up, and they go up about 700-800 feet. And depending on how far away, other columns might come up. And then it's like a golden white light that starts to shimmer and kind of fill up the space. and then it basically, the home and everything around it gets full of this golden white light. So anything that is supposed to stay or wants to stay in the new frequency and vibration will stay, and everything that doesn't want to gets booted out of there. So it's a different process than like some people I know, they'll clear a house by just crossing over the spirit, like, I'm done, and they'll leave. This is the kind of thing I feel that will stay, and it will kind of like help to continuously protect. And it's not to say that I won't go back. I mean, I do now. It's like, you got 3 months. If I got to come back within the 3 months, no problem, no charge. I'll come and do that. So there's a little bit of that feeling like, hey, you're not wasting your money on this, but it works, and It's amazing. And I love to see how other people do it. I have questions about how some other people do it, just out of sheer curiosity, but that's my way of doing things. If that's been my processes so far. Yeah.
Ooh.
Well, I have a question for you. For people out there that know that energy is around everyone and everything, how can one kind of protect themselves on an everyday basis, like from negative people or from bad energy, bad vibes? Is there any like self-help kind of tip that you can give our audience?
I mean, you could always talk to one of you guys. That's one, right? But one of the things that I kind of learned in my travels is, and it depends if you're visual or not. Like, I am very visual, so this works well for me. But let's start with visual and try to go from there. So having visual, like, I always give people two things. One of them being just to envision white light coming down to right below the heart, but right above the solar plexus, right? And the way that I see that, there's this little dot. That's you. That little dot is you. That's your soul. That's how I see it. I'm not saying it's right, but in my understanding of things, that's kind of where it is. So if you fill that and expand out from there and just let that go out, and it's pushing out anything that's not supposed to be there, like do this every morning kind of thing. And it just let it kind of circle you out, and just like breathe that in and be in your own little bubble. That's your own energy, right? And then the other thing that and you can apply that as needed, right? Like in the day, like if you're going to a meeting and you're about to get reamed for something, or maybe you're in some kind of a corporate environment where it's just really like you can barely make it home because it's so heavy. I would definitely reapply before I walk in. But the other thing is, I've learned that you connect with spirit from the solar plexus, and that's also where you connect with people. That's why a lot of times people have that, trust your gut. This is what they'll say. And it's because you'll get a feeling, like if somebody's not for you to talk to, you'll be like, yeah, this isn't feeling good, So I always say, like, especially if people are real sensitive or empathic, this is a big one that I always say, put a shield in front of the solar plexus, as big as it may be, or whatever you need, or as thick as you need. So after you do the bubble, put the shield there, a yellow shield, right? And this way, let that absorb versus you feeling somebody's anger or somebody's anxiety or whatever that is, and having that overwhelm you. And so now you'll be able to differentiate a little easier. Somebody's really anxious or somebody's really angry versus you having the actual experience and being like, where is this coming from? I'm confused. Yeah, those are, and even if you're not like super empathic, it's still a cool thing to do for yourself, so that you're not feeling from other people, because other people's energies will affect you.
That is so true. You know what's interesting too, when you brought up the belt? So when one of my daughters went into kindergarten, she was having a lot of stomach issues, and I didn't put two and two together at first that it started when she went to school. And a friend of mine that's a healer well, I mentioned it to her. I said, "Oh, this is weird." I said, "I don't know what's going on with her." Said the same thing.
No.
Her being empathic, which I mean, I truly believe we all have we all have that. We all have emotion.
We're all hardwired for all this.
And not, but some people have more of the awareness than others. Right now, here's a little 5-year-old going to kindergarten, and she kept telling me the same thing about like almost like a Wonder Woman. She said, "Word it like the Wonder Woman belt. Put before you get on the bus. Put the Wonder Woman belt on." Yes, and it did help.
Yeah,
it did help.
Absolutely.
So
that's cool.
There's another great question, by the way, that just popped up. So
from Michaela.
Show. All right.
I like that it populates my screen here. That's neat. Ooh. It's a tip. There's a part of me that if I had a white glove, really. But I understand where that's coming from. So, okay, so do I? So basically, imagine it like it's shifting the energy, so it's transmuting the energy. Figure it like like it's a transfusion. It's the best way to put it. So if you got, I never say that somebody's energy's stuck. I always say that it's murky. I don't even perceive chakras and the colors always how it's written. So
on the chart.
I go on my own, whatever I'm perceiving. So I just kind of roll with it, and it's always like, what am I going to see today? How am I going to look at it? Like sometimes I can be sitting talking to somebody, and I'll be like, somebody's a little off today, but I might not know what I'm talking about, but I know exactly what I'm talking about. And that's the weird thing. It's just like, I don't know what I'm talking about, but let me guess, you have a little bit of pain in your elbow? Yeah. Oh, okay. And your stomach's upset? Yeah. Oh, okay. I don't know let's get to work. So, but we definitely move energy out, that stagnant energy, and we start to move it. And in that movement, we're just moving it out and bringing in this beautiful, clean, fresh, new energy. That's a lot of times when they sit up, even if they don't have an experience, it's how do you feel? And 9 times out of 10, they feel like, I feel relaxed, or I could take a deep breath. It's just because you're nice and everything's nice and centered, and you're in a good spot. And that's how this all should be. It's just like I always ask people, what do you feel? And I've had people say, I don't feel anything. Well, how do you feel right now? I feel relaxed. That's good enough for me. Thank you very much. That means you receive the energy. Just pay attention to the subtle things as time goes on for you. Things that might trigger you might not trigger you as much anymore. Just pay attention. That's all. You have a better awareness. So yeah.
No, that's a good question.
I'm gonna go with it's a transfusion of beautiful, lovely energy.
Where you pull in new. Yeah, I mean that makes sense. Like I can relate it to Reiki, or I can even relate it to doing like house cleansings and space cleansings that I've done before. You know what I mean? You can go in with the intent of clearing out anything that's like a lower vibration, right? That's not good for the space or not good for the person's energy or chakras, right? But if you don't replace it, it kind of just sits open for that stuff to come creep back in. So like I've always looked at it as you want to replace it. So like when I do a house cleansing, I always, after cleansing, I then, some people use different forms of, lavender or this. I use holy water, when I go in, or even Florida water you can use, and same thing even when I'm doing Reiki, and like when I'm doing Reiki, because I don't do all the extra energy stuff. I'm only, that you do. I always imagine certain, like green light, white light going into the space of what I cleared,
Ooh,
intention, whatever. Yeah.
I like the green, white light thing. I like hearing what other people experience and what they do. So thank you for that.
Yeah, of course.
Because I don't get the chance. I know that's how you learn. I don't get the chance. Like I don't hear that. I don't hear how other people experience their flow. If that makes sense.
I get it. And I was trained, right? So I took training, right? And I got my certification. Was
Reiki your first thing versus mediumship?
No, it was mediumship first.
Oh, so then Reiki just kind of made sense.
Yeah. Well, I was actually drawn to it. I experienced it at a mediumship retreat. I had heard of it, didn't know anything about it. I had neck pain. They were doing free 15-minute sessions. I said, oh, sure, let me try it. The neck pain was gone. And I was like, whoa. So that's when I was like, sign me up. I want to learn this. So that was 11 years ago.
Wow. So let me ask you, Rich, though, like when it comes to like the idea of energy, how did you start to experience it? Like when did you, I know it's a two-part question. So when did you start with your mediumship, and then like the understanding of how energy is moving and working with you for you?
For me, it goes back to when I was a kid. I would feel and sense spirit. And then I went through that high school time where you just kind of blocked it out and did your best to move forward and not talk about it. And then once I graduated, probably early 2000s from, high school, I started to accept it. And when I accepted it, I started to be a sponge, like you talked about, trying to learn as much as you can, learning about past life regressions through Brian Weiss and understanding about that and every other facet of the metaphysics, and how it kind of all talks to one another, and how energy is really at the forefront of it all. We have to understand how energy works, how energy moves. The spirit world is functioning at a vibration, and we need to understand that. So, it was just understanding all of it through the metaphysics and how this modality kind of is the same as this modality. And when we start lining this all up, this makes us stronger. This gives us stronger muscles, and like you go to the gym and you weight lift, or you're on that, when you learn mediumship, when you learn and you start applying different aspects of Reiki, all these modalities that make us stronger, you really well suit yourself for this work. You learn tarot, you learn oracle, you learn symbolism, and that was just my whole way running. Like right out of high school, I'm like, I need to learn as much as I can. And studying with different teachers. And
you were brave.
Always finding, though, spirit put the right people on my path. At times it didn't feel that way. Sometimes, you're like, oh, this is the worst thing that could have happened to me. But no, I can tell you in hindsight that it's the best thing that ever happened to me.
Right.
Because everything that happened to me brought me right to this table tonight where I'm talking to you guys.
Right.
Amen, man. That's so true.
And think about this, right? As you start to learn of how things start to move, right? And in the energetic world, whether it be mediumship or anything else. And now you're starting to shift, right? Because you're having this different awareness and different understanding. And the more that you're shifting, it's like your energy is rising. So what happens though? The ones that aren't matching your vibe start to fall off.
Yep.
Right. And what does that feel like for people? So now it's like sometimes people will stop because they're like, oh my God, like I just, this friend was a friend from kindergarten and I'm not talking for, I don't know. And then I stopped with this and, all this stuff. And they're like, should I keep going? Like, am I cursed? Is this a bad thing?
No.
Not understanding that this is part of a process. Like I'm very in this stage of my life, like I have two, non-practicing people in my life. Yeah. Everybody else that I speak to, which isn't many, they're all doing something in spirituality, whether healing, reading, or whatever else, So, and I find it funny that my one friend, it's like a buddy of mine since I was 15. He's like my brother, we were both stray dogs, as he likes to say, And then the other ones I met through that friend that, and I don't really talk to these people as much as I used to. But when I do, I'm so happy that they're still in my life. And they make fun of me. They call it voodoo, black magic. They call it everything slang. And I just look at them because they're, and I say, well, let me try it on you. They're like, no.
And people are afraid of things they don't know, know,
and I tried it on my one friend. And I remember telling him, you're thinking about this, and this. And he looked at me. He's like, I'll never do this with you again. You didn't tell me you were a mind reader. I said, it's not mind reading. It's energetic. And I didn't even know that was a thing that I was doing. Like, this, he's like, yeah, we won't be doing that again. And I'm like, all right. And after my other friend heard that, he's like, yeah, there's absolutely no way Yeah.
Now, question for you. When doing a session, has anything ever come through that was like, wow, like talking about like elementals, perhaps like ETs?
Oh, yeah. Well, let's talk about your session, sir. Right? You want to talk about ETs?
Sure.
Let's talk about that. So
the ET session.
I'm doing, I was offering to Rich a few minutes, like, hey, I heard good things about you. You're friends with her, talking about Lisa, and
where?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, how do you do it? But anyway, how do you do that, Rich? Anyway, Rich sits with me. It was about maybe 10 minutes or so because, you had a table and stuff. I didn't want to take too much of your time. But when I sit Rich up, I'm like, how do you feel? He's like, oh, I feel really good. And I'm like, oh, cool. And I'm like, so tell me about what you feel on aliens. Not because I don't know your books. I don't know anything. And so he's like, starts to laugh. He's like, I wrote a book about it. I'm like, yeah. And then I just started telling you all this stuff. Like I'm seeing these beings. You're going to start actually communicating with them soon. So that's cool. Just letting you know. So I thought that was fun. So yeah, there's sometimes I want to say, like, one of the things I used to do years ago is I wore a for like football and stuff, they have it's a little playbook that they put on their arm.
On the forearm.
Right.
Yep.
So what I would do is I would cut a slit in that and put a little notepad in there. So I would write notes. And I stopped doing that because I got, trying to write all these notes on this little piece of paper. First off, now I need cheaters. But second off, I was writing so small, like I couldn't make out. And I was trying to do it so fast. I felt it was interfering with flow. And so now it's just like I'm flowing. And the only thing I will do is I'll have on my phone, like I'll copy spiritual meaning of, and if I see an animal, I'll put spiritual meaning of a horse or, jellyfish or whatever. And then I'll talk about that with the people. And whatever I can remember, I will convey, like things that I may have seen or beings that I may have encountered. But, sometimes and what was happening when I was writing things down is people wanted to hear so much about, well, tell me what you saw, or tell me what you heard, or I used to write down words. Tell me your words. And then they'd be like afterwards, and this is after a few sessions, like, so no other words? Like they were disappointed. And I was just like, you're lucky.
How do you feel?
Like, don't you? And that's the thing is the focus was wrong. They were looking in the wrong place. Like, if that's what you wanted, go get a reading from somebody. Like, I'm not your guy for that. Like, this isn't a twofer, and I'm not saying that it's not. But like you said, focus on you, because when I'm working with you, that's what we're doing. We're focused on you. So it got a little frustrating. So I had to stop that nonsense. Not nonsense. I mean, because sometimes I do feel guided that I'll open up the phone and I'll put in the notes real quick, like a word that will remind me, because I'm like, I got to give you this nugget of information. I got to tell you about this, and sometimes, like, I have an Android, so I have the pen in there. So sometimes I'll even draw something, which I'm not an artist by no stretch. So, I don't do stick figures. I do bubble people. So one's a Popeye arm and the other one's a little arm. But either way, I try to give, if bubble
artist.
I try. But like, if I see something, I'll try to draw it, and then I'll try to find it after the session. Like, I don't want to take too much time and get lost. But, I see a lot of different beings. And so, for example, one of the things I don't even talk about with people anymore, but, I'll bring this up, is because for me, it's always a consistent. And this is an interesting thing, because I see it as the energy of versus the actual being. Now, is there a difference? Well, I think people perceive things different. So I always feel the energy of Archangel Michael, Archangel Raphael, and Mother Mary. Now, it's the energy of, so I don't know how else to explain it, but that's how I'm perceiving it. But first and foremost, one of the coolest things that I want to say that I experience. Again, something that I don't really talk about because I don't know if people are going to get offended or whatever the case is I will see, for lack of other words, is angels, right? But for me, it's silhouettes of light. But this part here, it's like it matches the individual I'm working with. So it's a frequency. Mm-hmm. And so there's hundreds and hundreds of these silhouettes of lights with this frequency when I'm working on somebody that just kind of fill the space. Mm-hmm. And it's like it's like we're in this capsule. And so I'm free to let this energy flow. And sometimes I see other beings that come in and I'm always nodding like, what's up, man? How you been? It's been like ages, you know, like where you been for 2 millennia? You know, like crazy stuff. But it's just a different way of understanding things. And I can't say that I actually understand it, but I just kind of flow with it. So
very cool.
That's all I could do.
Very cool.
Boy, I talk a lot. We have.
Well, we're coming up to the end. We only got a couple minutes left. Why don't you tell the viewers what you got coming up as far as, you know, events, or if they wanted to reach you?
How are our viewers able to get a session?
Well, I work out of a holistic doctor's office in Wayne, New Jersey. It's the Integrative Holistic Center with Dr. Matt Singer. BuddhaHawk.com. You can always reach me through there. You can text or call me. If you go on BuddhaHawk.com, you can get that information. I don't know if I want to put my phone number out here like that. You guys are cool and all, but you never know. Even though it's on the web, it's like do a little legwork, you know. What am I doing next? I don't even know. I wasn't prepared for that question. I don't feel like
Heart of Oneness. You have that.
That's in March.
March in Edison, New Jersey.
That's a big one. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, you have a lot of events coming up, don't you?
Or now you're making me look at my phone. Let's see. Let me put my nerd glasses on here for a minute.
Although here, there's a question about the methods. Here, let me show this. I'll read it. This is for all of us. From Todd, do you feel that one methodology works better for you during a session, or have you ever had to call an audible, so to speak, during a session because the method the session was intended for you feel isn't working and you switch to a different technique? So I, speaking for myself, when it comes to doing energy work and balancing and cleansing of people and their auras and their energy centers and blocks and stuff like that. So I kind of do a little bit of whatever I feel intuitively guided to do. So, you know, somebody will sign up to come for a Reiki session, but if I feel like they have some serious blocks that I want to add a little bit of sound to, I have tuning forks, or I use singing bowls. Sometimes I'll even, you know, take a specific crystal that I feel guided to put in a certain location to help absorb that energy. Why are you laughing at me?
Put it in a special place. Put it in my mind went to a weird spot. I'm sorry. I'm tired.
It's almost the 9 o'clock hour.
I know. I
not last night. So yeah, so that's kind of how I do it. I really just go based off of intuition and where I feel like the person needs as I'm doing it, with the intention to shift, clear, remove whatever needs to be cleared, and then rebalance. So I don't know.
What do you got, Rich? What do you got?
Yeah, I mean, you have that knowing. I mean, when you go into any client, whether it's for mediumship, Reiki, you know, you'll know an area that needs to be worked on, whether it's the throat chakra's just standing out, or you're being drawn to a certain area. I mean, I always say to anybody, go with what your gut says, especially when you're working with clients, and you'll be led, you know, and I feel that's always what we do when we go in there. We just open up to spirit, what needs to be worked on, and let them kind of guide us.
Yeah. I'm going to agree with you. I'm going to say, you know,
it's a great question.
Yeah, it is. I'm going to say authentically, like, we're not in control, you know, and if there's an illusion that any kind of a channeler, because that's all we're all doing, it's just different hats of the same. Yeah. But any channeler, I don't think it's going to be, you're supposed to allow things to just flow. and that flow, you're supposed to be like that liquid, right? So when I'm doing a session, it's like I might see one way that the energy's flowing, but then all of a sudden it makes a hard right turn, and I'm right there hugging it, hugging the turn. I'm good with it. I've learned that I'm not driving this car, so I got to do what I got to do.
You got to be out of your head. Like if you're in your head, you're not moving, right. I mean, you truly have to be out.
The first thing my Reiki master ever told me is check your ego at the door, because you are not the healer. You know what I mean? Like, you are the vessel for the healing, you know what I mean, to facilitate that and bring that energy through.
Exactly.
And yes, there were manuals, and yes, hand positions you learn, obviously, as you're learning the technique to get comfortable, until you start to trust that. Now, I don't follow any of that.
No.
You know what I mean? If I feel like I need to put my hand like underneath you on your lower back, I will roll you over and put my hand underneath your lower back,
Manhandling people.
I'm not even gonna. I'm sorry.
Well, I feel the same way when I channel. Like, I was so in my head about it that now I learned the proper, and the connection is like instant. Like, when I start channeling, I get out of my head, and what starts to come through is totally. It amazes me at times, the information that is coming through. And I was in my head for the longest, like, well, how does this work? How is this information? You gotta get out of your headspace.
Right. You already have the attunement. The intention is to channel the energy. Heck, if somebody came and said like, oh, my foot, you could put you don't even have to touch them. You don't have to touch them. Right. Your intention is to send that energy. That's how
I had a session with somebody today for 2 hours, and we were having conversation, but I was moving energy. So as she got angry or felt an emotion, I was helping to move it. And that was kind of an active way of working. But I'm like, all right, now I'm going to lie you down so you can actually like really relax and kind of decompress. And that was really a cool thing. But yeah. So I'm going to agree with you 100% on that. You don't have, do you have to? I mean, yes and no, but it's your own comfort. It's the individual's comfort level on how you can do things.
Right.
But definitely get that ego out of there. Ego, I know. Ego. No, that when I encounter ego, it's like somebody else hops in and says, like, I don't know, I can't even. I get fired up about things sometimes. That's one of them. Like, what's that about? Wayne, like, I get crazy.
Well, Wayne Dyer always said ego means edging God out.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
I've heard that before.
Yeah.
And I am a huge fan of Wayne, and he got me through a lot of stuff. And there was one book on ego that he wrote, and it is amazing. And you really need to learn to detach from it, because nothing good comes from ego.
Yeah. No, I agree with you 100%. And that's a whole other show. That's
a whole other show. Part 2 with Roland.
Have you back? That's for sure. So this concludes. Rich, do you want to tell them quick before we log off and say goodnight about our next guest? Because I know it is somebody that you've spoken with.
Our
you've read her books.
Yes. Yep. If you check out on our Facebook page, Sarah is an accomplished medium, and she's a hospice nurse. So we're going to be having Sarah on our next show. I believe that would be April. February
23rd.
February 23rd. I don't have those notes in front of me. I do know it's Sarah. Either. She's an amazing medium. She has a book out. Her link is on our Facebook page. If you want to go on and pick up her book, you can check it out. Sarah's great. She's going to be coming on. We're going to talk everything about mediumship, her job as a hospice nurse, and her best-selling book that's available on Amazon.
Wow. That sounds like a cool one. I might have to be a fly on the wall on that one.
And then our next two after that, we have Ron and Lourdes going to be talking about the digital seance, and our good friend Brian Bowden. So
what's Brian about? What's his story?
Extraterrestrials in the Hudson Valley.
Ah, giddy up.
Yeah, that's
I'm
That's one of my
excited.
favorite
I want
topics.
to be a fly on the wall on all these.
Good.
And
I'll
I just,
remind
you
want,
could just pop in, maybe. You could just.
I just want to take my head. I got a question, guys. Like come in sideways, and then just leave.
Definitely.
Thank you very much.
Definitely follow the Facebook page. We're going to be
I will
putting a
follow.
lot of stuff up there, even maybe some bonus content, that we don't actually feature on here. It could be
What
a
I
little.
wish we would have recorded ourselves
I
earlier.
just thought of that when they were mimicking Sesame Street voices before we logged in.
Yeah, Rich and I got a lot to talk about. That's awesome. I'm excited.
Huge Muppet Sesame Street fan here, folks. So.
All right.
We
can do the voices. Yeah. I'm not gonna do it. I can't. He's even sick and doing it. He's on the mend. He's all right. But that sounds great. I love it. Yeah, love it.
Oh,
thank
you very much,
everyone for
I'll
tuning
send you my
in.
Elvis video.
Okay, that
I will
sounds
post
good.
that on the Beyond the Veil Supernatural podcast page.
I gotta go.
We'll see you next time.
Thank you, guys.
Take care. Bye-bye.
See you later. Thanks for watching.